this video, we're going to be looking at the remaining types of pronouns. We did talk about the personal and possessive pronouns. So this time around, we'll be looking at the relative pronoun. So what is a relative pronoun? Actually, relative pronouns are those pronouns you hear like who, whose, which, that, and so on. Relative pronouns begin dependent clauses, and they often refer to people and things. Every time you see a dependent clause, you would often find a relative pronoun beginning that dependent clause. So for example, listen to this sentence. The people who are usually from downtown tend to see the trip to the mall as a family outing. Did you find where that relative pronoun began? Here, it started the dependent clause, that is, who are usually from downtown. And who there is referring to the people. Okay, so relative pronouns actually refer to people or things, and we usually use them to begin dependent clauses. Great. Then we talk about demonstrative pronouns. As the name implies, you always demonstrate to talk about them. So you can say these, those. You're demonstrating in a way, you're pointing to something. They point to the nouns that they replace. So for example, you could say, these trips, however, tend to be rather tiring. These cows are mine. Those people are coming here. So you're actually demonstrating or pointing to something. Now, the other type of pronouns we'll be looking at are interrogative pronouns. Well, as the name implies also, you could tell that they're used to ask questions. So interrogative pronouns are pronouns such as who, which, what, whose. Especially when they're used to form questions, they come under interrogative pronouns. So you can use any of those pronouns I just mentioned to ask questions. For example, why did you apply to study at the Pan Atlantic University? Who is your best friend? So those are interrogative pronouns. Now what about intensive pronouns? They're quite interesting, as it is that intensive pronouns often repeat and emphasize a noun or a pronoun. I say that again. Intensive pronouns repeat and emphasize a noun or a pronoun. So you have intensive pronouns such as herself, himself, themselves, and you have some other kinds of compounds that are formed with self or selves. So the addition of self or selves to some other pronouns gives you the intensive pronouns. But the thing about intensive pronouns, which you will see, are quite the thing is quite different from reflexive pronouns, will be that intensive pronouns repeat and emphasize a noun or pronoun. So for example, you could say the mall itself is not a particularly attractive place. Now take note, what's the noun there that the pronoun is repeating or emphasizing? Yeah, the mall. So the mall is being repeated or emphasized by the use of itself. So the mall itself. So in this case, the noun is being emphasized. So what about the reflexive pronoun? What would it then be? Because they are basically the same types of words. Himself, herself, themselves, and other compounds that you form with self or selves. In the case of reflexive pronouns, they rename or reflect back to a preceding noun or pronoun. They rename or reflect. They don't emphasize, but they rename or reflect back to it. Maybe an example will make this clearer. So we can say, the people can buy themselves all sorts of goodies. The people can buy themselves. So using themselves there to replace the people, we could really say the people can buy the people all sorts of goodies. But we don't need to do that. That's why we have reflexive pronouns. So themselves there would then replace, rename, okay, the people. So the people can buy themselves. Quite different from the mall itself, emphasizing the mall. And that's the basic difference between intensive pronouns and reflexive pronouns. Another interesting one you need to know is the indefinite pronouns. One, anyone, somebody, nobody, everybody, and so on. All of those kinds of pronouns are known as indefinite pronouns. They refer to general, non-specific things or people, and so on. You can't say that there is one person particularly that is being referred to. The interesting thing you need to know about indefinite pronouns is that they are always singular in nature. So regardless of the fact that they seem to, talk about a whole lot of people, because there is no one specific person that it's talking about or to, we regard them as singular pronouns. So I could say, anyone who has been to the mall knows that it has both good and bad qualities. And now C, the fact that we regard it as a singular pronoun necessitates our use of singular verbs. So that's something to pay attention to. Anyone who has, not who have, because anyone is singular. Knows that it has, knows, not know, because knows is singular, anyone is singular. We also have reciprocal pronouns, pronouns like one another, each other. So reciprocal pronouns refer to separate parts of a plural noun. A plural noun, but its separate parts. So one another and each other are very common usages. Now some people think about, should it be one another or should it be each other? Anyway, it depends on you. Choose your style and be consistent with it. Many people would argue though that each other should be used for just two persons when you're talking about two persons. They love each other. And then one another when you're talking about several people. They care about one another. So that's an example to illustrate what reciprocal pronouns are about. Now I'll give you an exercise on certain types of pronouns. You're going to tell me if they're reflexive, intensive, demonstrative, interrogative, relative, or indefinite. And that will help to show if you've really gotten a very good grasp of them. But just before you look into the exercises, I'd like you to keep these few points in mind. Remember that pronouns should always, 1, agree in number, 2, agree in person, and 3, refer clearly to a specific noun. So that is to say, like I've just emphasized, if the pronoun takes the place of a singular noun, make sure that you use a singular pronoun. So it would be wrong to say, for example, if a student parks a car on campus, they have to buy a parking sticker. I'll say that again. If a student parks a car on campus, they have to buy a parking sticker. So what's wrong with that? A student, they. No, that doesn't agree. In number, a student means one, they means many. So how do we correct that? So you say, if a student parks a car on campus, he or she has to buy a parking sticker. So he or she, one, a student, one. So allow your pronouns to always agree in number. Also, talking about agreements, remember to always make sure that when you're writing in the first person, don't suddenly switch to the second person. When you're using the second person, don't suddenly switch to the first or the third person. It can be quite confusing to your reader. So for example, you shouldn't say something like, when a person comes to class, you should have your homework ready. A person, you, that is switching from third person to second person. So you should rather say, when a person comes to class, he or she should have his or her homework ready. So always make sure that there is person agreement. You must always work within that ambit. And the third rule I shared with you is that you should always ensure that pronouns refer clearly to a specific noun. Don't be vague or ambiguous. Always look out for your expressions and check, have I really made the point here? Have I made the point to stand out? Will my reader be able to tell what it is I really have in mind? Very important questions for you to think about. So it would be very wrong to say something like, although the motorcycle hit the tree, it was not damaged. Wait a minute. Although the motorcycle hit the tree, it was not damaged. So what's the problem? It was not damaged. The motorcycle hit the tree. It was not damaged. So what is the it there representing? What is it referring back to? What is its antecedent? Is it the motorcycle or the tree? Now you see why I say that can be confusing, because we do not know which of the two it's referring to. So how do we correct that? We simply rename, or we use the same noun if using a pronoun would be confusing in that case. So you could say, although the motorcycle hit the tree, the motorcycle was not damaged. So it's clearer what you intend to say. Another thing is for you to always remember that pronouns can be used as subjects, objects of the verb, or prepositions, and can be used in the possessives. And as a result of that, you want to make sure that you always use the right types of pronouns in the right places that they have to be. As I end this video, I'm going to also give you another exercise. So that's 2 outstanding exercises that you have there. Please ensure that you do them and submit for your corrections and feedback. If there are any other questions, I'll attend to them. See you next time. Bye.